tape right now because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden is the best Biden ever.
No.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I think I'm having a good hair day. That's the important thing. It's the important thing. Things that you know, people don't realize how much work this takes. It takes a lot of work.
Really?
It doesn't just happen. Doesn't just happen. How's that light? Is that a light up bright enough?
Yeah. No, I thought that was good.
Brighter? How about that?
I like it.
Okay.
Really look nice. That was one of your birthday presents, by the way.
I appreciate it. Oh, your birthday present's coming.
I don't need one. I have everything.
I know you do. I know it's hard to buy something for someone who has everything. Anyway, I've thought of 3 jokes that I would get in trouble for just now. So,
yeah, let's wait until Rumble.
All right. So we have a lot coming up on today's show. We're going to talk about Joe Biden's latest gaffes. Talk about his press conference last night.
Oh boy,
it's fantastic. I feel better. I think it's. I think he's fine. I think he's fine.
Yeah, nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. He's gonna be fine. What else are we gonna talk about?
4 more years.
We're gonna talk about they tried to pass a voter ID act. It got blocked in the Senate. We're gonna talk about that. Colorado is getting ready to slaughter a bunch of birds over the fake bird flu. Turns out the Democrats not so threatened by Trump, meaning they admitted that they'd be okay if he got elected. No kidding. You think I'm making that up? Hey, turns out all the fact checkers on Facebook are being funded by Big Pharma. And Maddow,
boy,
Rachel Maddow reveals her inner evil demon and says that Joe Biden is fundamentally right on foreign policy. So speaking of foreign policy, I wanted to show you this. Ryan Dawson tweeted this out. There's a gentleman named David Curtin, and he's going to speak some truth about the Ukraine war over there in the UK, and watch what happens.
David Curtin.
Well, I've spoken about this at length at many times over the last 2 years, and you can't take what's happened in the last 2 years in isolation. This comes on the back of what the West did, the CIA and Victoria Nuland particularly, ousting a democratically elected president in 2014, Yanukovych, because he decided he didn't want to join NATO and he didn't want to join the EU, which is their right. What the West has done, the collective West, is put in a puppet in Poroshenko and then another puppet in Zelensky, and we've encouraged him to...
Well, Zelensky won an election.
He won an election in 2019 on the basis of peace with Russia, and he did a bait and switch at the behest of the deep state in the West, who basically controlled him.
Really have swallowed the Putin propaganda, haven't you?
It's not Putin's propaganda, it's actually reality, and it's actually what I'm talking about. So
it's a very strange reality.
Well, it is reality. I mean, you've just interrupted me there, so let me just finish and continue. So there was absolutely no need for the West to get involved in this on any side. We should have been trying to de-escalate from the beginning in February 2022.
So we should have just sat back and let Russia invade a sovereign country.
There was a peace deal in April 2022 that Putin and Zelensky worked out in Turkey with Erdogan. Boris Johnson went to Zelensky just after that, and the next thing we know, Zelensky had said, no, we're not going to make peace.
This is pure Putin propaganda. You should be ashamed of yourself.
It's actually what's happened. I'm not ashamed of myself, and I'm actually saying the reality of the situation.
How much land should we let Russia take then?
Well, if we had not gone in and agitated this and escalated and supported Zelensky to escalate, there wouldn't have been any land taken at all. Obviously, you had the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, who were Russian, who had been bombed by neo-Nazis attached to the Zelensky regime for 8 years.
And we might as well have Vladimir Putin set where you are.
Well, I mean, that's just an insult.
You're an absolute disgrace.
You're
an absolute disgrace.
No, that's an absolute insult. And you can't
it was meant to be. It was meant to be.
You shouldn't call me. Sorry, I'm not going to have. You're not calling me a disgrace, and that is really not good moderation, because that
it may not be good moderation, but I'm just reflecting what virtually every single person listening to this program is saying. I want to hear from Hans.
And we need to
So I just want to say I'm impressed with that white guy's ability to withstand hearing facts. You'd think the obvious failure in Ukraine would make it harder to gibber Putin propaganda like an utter fuckwit. But no, this brave man stood strong and calmly recited the neo-shit-lib Hail Mary, Putin propaganda! So let's bring on the truth teller. David Curtin is here. He's a British politician from Sussex, England. He is a registered leader of the socially conservative Heritage Party and served as a member of the London Assembly for London-wide from 2016 to 2021. Prior to entering politics, he taught chemistry at the schools in UK, Botswana, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bermuda, and in the United States. Please welcome to the show, David Curtin.
Hi, Jimmy. Good to be with you.
Well, that was really funny. Usually the guy with the British dialect, that just automatically makes them correct. But when it doesn't work when you're up against another opposing British dialect. This is like Jedi battle of accents. So
right. And there was a room full of us there that night. And, this was a really important event for me because we just had the general election and this was a hustings. So there were leaders of 4 political parties there who were challenger parties to the powers that be, if you like, the ones who have been in Parliament for a long time. So I was setting out my case for the Heritage Party. We answered a lot of other questions about a lot of other topics. And then we came to this topic, and you would have thought that he would have just given everybody a few minutes to set out what they believed in, but he was very unhappy with my answers. So rather than letting me talk, and obviously I've got a difference of opinion to some of the other people, he did the classic media technique of interrupting again and again and again, trying to throw me off balance, coming in with smears again and again, and then at the end he didn't have anything to say, so he said basically, yes, I'm insulting you. It was absolutely unbelievable.
So who is that person?
Well, this is a guy called Ian Dale, who actually was a candidate for a few days for the Conservative Party, what I call the fake Conservative Party. He was going to stand in a town called Tunbridge Wells, which is a very well-to-do upper middle class town. It's quite well known as an archetypal town like that in the south of England. But then he was thrown out because it was found that he'd made comments saying that he really didn't like Tunbridge Wells, and it was, he was not very fond of the place. But yeah, he's a media person. He's been a radio presenter on that channel for a while. He's quite well known, but he is fake conservative. He believes in I guess the neocon agenda, if you like, and also the sort of I'm all right Jack conservatism, but he's very against the traditional values, and obviously he's doesn't have a clue about what is actually going on in the Ukraine and all the background to it, and typical of people like him, in the London, the media political bubble kind of people. I guess you have something similar in the US, in New York and Washington, I imagine, as well. But he will just try to maintain the narrative by attacking anyone who doesn't follow what you are supposed to say by the powers that be.
So here's what, in the United States, it doesn't make anybody suspicious that when the supposed left-wing presenter, like someone like Rachel Maddow, is saying the exact same thing about Ukraine or Iraq or Libya or Syria or Afghanistan as the extreme right-wing Sean Hannity, for instance. And it doesn't make anybody's spidey senses tingle when they're saying the exact same thing on foreign policy. Is that also the case in the UK, where the supposed liberal left-wing people are spouting the exact same propaganda on war as the supposed conservatives?
Yeah, well, that's a sure sign that something is wrong. And when this started, we had exactly the same thing in the UK. So we have a left-wing party called the Labour Party. They've just won the election. Their leader is Keir Starmer. He's now the Prime Minister. At the time, you had the centre-right so-called Conservative Party. I don't think they're true Conservatives at all. Boris Johnson was the leader of that at the time. And they were both speaking, exactly the same rhetoric. They were both in favour favor of escalating the war situation, arming Ukraine, first of all, with helmets, and then armored vehicles, and then howitzers, and then anti-aircraft missiles, and then Challenger tanks, and then it's Storm Shadow cruise missiles, and then it's F-16s. So you've got, the so-called right-wing mainstream party, the so-called left-wing mainstream party, and all of the media, the mainstream media complex, all pushing the same narrative. Everyone must believe that Putin bad and Zelensky good. We must support Ukraine. We are under existential threat from Putin, who is like Hitler. And if you don't agree with it, then you are smeared, to hell, basically, by these people who are trying to control the narrative.
So, yes, there's ubiquitous conformity about the wars in the United States. There always has been. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, it's the same thing over in the UK. But here's the weird thing. I understand why. So in America, our media is sponsored by the war machine, right? So Boeing, for instance, will advertise on a news program, even though nobody's in the business of buying a jet, right? And what I have to explain to our audience is that the reason why usually the advertisers give news organizations money so they can go do investigations and report the news. But when you see Boeing or, Lockheed Martin, or what they're actually doing is they're not funding their investigation. They're funding their non-investigation. What they're doing is saying, here's a bunch of money if you just say what we want to say. And if you don't, we're going to take that money away. So that's how they control the media here. Now, in the UK, isn't the BBC supposed to be funded by the government? Why would they often sound exactly like the corporate war machine funded media in the United States?
It is a bizarre thing, because it is a state broadcaster. It is owned by the government. It's largely funded by the government, but it's also funded by something called the TV license. So in the UK, you have to pay something like £160, it's about $200 a year, to watch television, and that money goes to the BBC to continue their operations. So they have a budget. I think they get something like £2 or £3 billion a year from the TV license. So they should be serving the people of the country and actually allowing a range of opinions on to their channel, rather than just trying to goad everybody and coerce everybody into following the same narrative. They do get some funding from outside organizations. I think they have received money from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, obviously with lockdowns and vaccines, as they're so called, that's a whole other issue which we could talk about as well. So they do get some outside funding. But the program I was on was a completely private station. It was called LBC. It's fairly well known. It has 3 or 4 million viewers prime time. That's probably the number of people who were watching that show or listening to that show when I was on it. But it does seem that there is some kind of uniformity among mainstream media personnel and reporters and presenters to follow the government line. It's almost Soviet in a way, but rather than having just one paper, Pravda, you've got 20 different outlets, but they all say the same thing to give you the illusion that there's some kind of competition and difference of opinion, when actually on these issues where the government and the powers that be behind the government, the Council for Foreign Relations and Chatham House and those kind of things, they want to steer the public into having a certain opinion. So they somehow control what is going on in the mainstream media.
So when I talk to people in the United States about the Ukraine war, they don't have any idea about any of the stuff that you just told, what you said on that show. They don't know that the United States and the CIA orchestrated a coup of the democratically elected government in Ukraine because they didn't want to go along with the European Union's economics and the International Monetary Fund. They were turning to Putin to form an economic relationship, and the United States couldn't have that, so they overthrew him, installed a puppet. And then they started bombing, like you said, they started shelling the people, the eastern part of Ukraine, the Russian speakers didn't want to go along with the coup government, so they just started shelling them. And there were 2 peace agreements that, of course, Ukraine breached. And Angela Merkel revealed that those peace agreements were just there to bide time so they could build up the Ukraine military, getting ready for a war with Russia. And as Colonel McGregor in the United States has explained, the reason why we're doing this war, why we provoked this war, which was provoked by NATO, the United States, was because we wanted to balkanize Ukraine, give it over to BlackRock and Vanguard and these, which is what they're doing. They're giving up all their farmland already, and they thought they could do the same thing to Russia. And they can't. Russia's way stronger. And so when I try to explain this to people in the United States, they look at me like I have 2 heads, and they literally say, "Oh, that's Putin propaganda." They say that to me. So are people in the UK, are they any better informed than the people in the United States?
I think that they are generally. I think the general feeling in the country is that this is ridiculous. We don't want to escalate to war. The majority of people I speak to now, even people who were under the spell of propaganda at the beginning, 2.25 years ago, have now come round to see, well, at the very least, the government is now committed to give £3 billion a year to Zelensky. But, he's known as basically someone who smokes coke, who used to do, vaguely homosexual dancing videos, and he was an actor before he became president. He really doesn't have a good reputation among ordinary people outside the media political bubble in London. And he's lost a lot of support in the UK. And I think countries around Europe would be the same, because there is quite a large alternative media in the UK. I think there is in the US as well. Obviously, you are presenting reality and truth in opposition to the lies of the mainstream media. That exists as well in the UK. And I think it's now very, very unpopular among a lot of people to be continuing to give more money, escalating the type of weapons we give to Zelensky. And this week, you've got a new prime minister who reiterated that he wanted to allow the Zelensky regime to use British Storm Shadow cruise missiles to fire at targets inside Russia. I mean, I put out, this is absolutely insane. And so did a lot of people, and actually is now rowed back from that, which is a good thing. But, the general direction of travel from the government is there is no break. There is no U-turn. They're going ahead. But more and more as time goes on, ordinary people, definitely millions, perhaps tens of millions of people in the UK are against escalating to war with Russia, because we know this will just be an absolute calamity, because we'll be first in the firing line, because no country has been more aggressive in terms of its government giving weapons and stoking up tensions than the British government, to our shame, under both Johnson and then Truss and Sunak and now Starmer. Interesting, we've had 4 different prime ministers since this conflict has begun, but they've all stayed, exactly holding to this aggressive narrative in Ukraine.
So in the United States, when Donald Trump, he ran on an anti-interventionist platform, and he wanted to make peace with Russia. He wanted to pull us out of the Middle East and Europe, and he wanted to pull us out of NATO, and people voted for that, just like they voted for Brexit. And so it seemed like those 2 things were connected, and the establishment, the Western billionaire-run establishment, really had a bad reaction to that, and they wanted to make sure that the democracy didn't work, meaning they sabotaged Donald Trump here in the United States they did a thing called Russiagate. So it's been revealed that Hillary Clinton's campaign worked in conjunction with the CIA and the FBI to concoct a conspiracy theory that Donald Trump was working for President Putin, because President Putin had some kind of blackmail on him, and that it's been revealed now. They did a big investigation. It was called Russiagate. And so I said early on that they were going to use this eventually to start a war, and that's exactly what they did. And the Ukraine war is it. So the United States the citizenry, we were primed for this war because we were taught to hate Putin because we were told that Putin overthrew our elections in 2016. That's how Donald Trump got elected, which was also a lie, and that Donald Trump was somehow under the thumb of President Putin, which was also a lie. And so in America, our citizenry we were primed for this war. Why UK? They didn't experience Russiagate, so why would they be so willingly to go along with this bullshit economic proxy war with Ukraine?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have Russiagate, but you know that was sort of something that didn't really get too much into the news. It did, but it was quite technical. People here didn't really understand it too much, and you know, it just seemed like they were having a go at Trump for the sake of having a go at Trump because they didn't like him. Obviously, we'd had Brexit, and we've seen the establishment try to overturn Brexit for about 5 years and stop it from actually happening. You know, and we didn't actually come out of the EU for 4.5 years after we voted for it. But we did have a few stories priming us in the UK for to see Russia in a bad light. And one of them was these two apparent Russian defectors called the Skripals, Georgy and Yulia Skripal, who were apparently poisoned by Novichok in a cathedral town called Salisbury. Everything about that was complete nonsense to my mind, and they changed the story again and again and again because you could pick holes in it all the way along, and eventually, you know, it was they apparently were exposed to Novichok by touching a resin on their door handle, which was still there in the pouring rain, but they didn't die immediately. They drove into town, they went shopping, they had a drink in a pub, they went for a walk, then they had a pizza, and then they sat down and got ill from Novichok, and the policeman joined them and got ill again and died. And then that was in the news for literally 6 months. It was, you know, they couldn't stop talking about this and saying Putin bad, he's killed 2 people, or he tried to kill 2 people on British soil. But they were the first 2 people ever in history who survived a Novichok poisoning attack, which didn't make any sense whatsoever. But you know, you could just look at this and see it was nonsense. But that was essentially the priming of the British public to see Russia, particularly Putin, in a bad light. You know, a couple of years before the conflict started. So yeah, we have had things, and to push the narrative as well here.
Yes, I do remember we reported that story because that was basically part of Russiagate here in the United States, because it got big press here in the United States because it fit into their Russiagate narrative. And again, that people aren't able to see that they were being manipulated by the you know, the powers that be that wanted this war to get ready for it. And now you know, it's, as Julian Assange said, these wars aren't meant to be won; they're meant to be ongoing. And it's a transfer of money from the treasuries of the UK and the United States to the international security state and the military-industrial complex, and that's all this is. And I'm always flummoxed and just blown away that after Iraq twice, after Libya, after lied about 20 years for Afghanistan, after that, they still fall for it. The American public still falls for it. Of course, the media is going to lie about it because they're paid to lie about it. That's why they get chosen, right? For those, there are people willing to lie for that kind of money, and that's why they're in the media. But has there been any did that make a splash, that video, over in the UK at all, or did anybody pay attention? It did. So tell me what was the fallout of it? I think it did.
I mean, that one, I think, got nearly 1 million views. And there was another clip from that same hustings on the same program that got even more. It got nearly 2 million views. And it was just a few days before the election, actually. It was the Monday before the Thursday. So, you know, it was a lot of people watching that. So it did make a splash. Actually, one Telegraph freelancer picked it up and wrote a story about it. And it was in the Telegraph, which is one of the bigger newspapers here, the next day. So So it went round, definitely went viral on social media. The other clip that we had an argument about, Ian Dale and I, he went completely crazy when I said I didn't agree with the LGBT agenda being taught to children in schools. That also went viral. That was just a couple of minutes after the show, after the Ukraine clip.
Oh, no kidding! Wow. Okay. Well, that's funny because it seems like the tide has turned on that here in the United States, at least with the trans agenda. Most people are going against that now, and because it doesn't come from the grassroots, as I've explained on this show, it comes from the top down. It comes from companies like BlackRock and Vanguard, and they try to wrap themselves in the gay pride flag as they crush workers and regular people and rape the planet, and so they can have a patina of virtue. So it's not just white guys who are stealing your land and crushing you economically. It's a gay trans black person, So it's that we've talked about that's they use those identity politics as a weapon to keep people divided and to keep the corporation with their boot on the neck of the worker. But David, I appreciate you very much. I'll have to check out that other video clip. Maybe we could have you back on to talk about that.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, David Curtin. Really appreciate your time. Great job on that show.
Thanks, Jimmy. Really good to join you on the show. Cheers.
Okay. All right, over to Steph.
All right, that was fantastic. Thank you, David. We'll see you in the future.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, look at us. Kurt Mexican is not in studio today. He's on his way elsewhere, folks.
So you saw Kurt, his last day ever.
Jimmy.
His last day ever in studio was Wednesday. So he was here Wednesday, right?
Yes, it was Wednesday.
So it was last Wednesday. So Kurt was supposed to be here today. He's moving to Austin. And, I was in Austin, and as a comedian, it's very attractive to live in Austin, especially with Joe Rogan and the mothership there. Every show is sold out. I think they do 4 shows a night. They do 2 in the big room, 2 in the small room, and they all sell out. And it's just an amazing time and a place to be a comedian. I was in there. So yeah, it definitely did it for. So I was doing the 8 p.m. show on a Wednesday, July 3rd. And I'm in the green room waiting for the show to start, which is sold out. And in walks Ron White, the famous comedian Ron White, and he's doing a set. I'm like, oh my gosh, hi Ron. I didn't know. I'd never met Ron before. We even though we shared a manager for a while. The amazing Alex Murray. And then Shane Gillis walks in. And I'm like, oh, he's on the show. That's amazing. And then Joe Rogan walks in. I'm like, this is quite an unbelievable show for a Wednesday night.
Wow.
So that was just people showed up to when they didn't know who was going to be on the show. And that's who was on the show on a Wednesday night at the mothership. So, and then there's all these other clubs. There's like 5 different clubs within a stone's throw of the mothership. So it's quite a time to be a comedian in Austin. And don't think it didn't cross my mind to move there. It certainly did. But I know Steph would never let me. So, because her family's here.
Jimmy, I say you move there.
You say me, not you, right? Yeah. Yeah, she likes living in Studio City, and she likes our backyard. I get it. Okay.
I mean, right now, like, didn't their power go out? And
on Houston.
Yeah,
and Houston, not Houston's,
the internet went
Houston's way closer to the Gulf.
Oh, okay.
So Austin is not. Houston's right on the ocean, and so that's why they get bad because what do you call hurricanes? Anyway, over to Steph.
It is hot.
It is hot.
It is hot.
Yeah, but guess what? It's been way too cold and rainy in California the last 2
Not a problem.
Way. I guess
it's gonna get really hot.
You don't
soon.
think so? Like the last 2 years, the last 2 winters seem like they never ended. Yeah, long. Every day,
okay,
gray.
You both sound silly. Long winters for California.
Yeah, I didn't move. I didn't move to California so I could feel like I live in Nova Scotia, right? or Vancouver. I lived here because it's supposed to be sunny Southern California. When my brother came out to visit, my brother comes out to visit in January, not this last year, in the January before. It was rainy and cold every goddamn day. We had a monsoon on New Year's Eve. He was here for New Year's Eve. We had a monsoon 2 years in a row, right? Anyway, no, the first, I don't know. Where are you from, Misha? Oh, you're from Northern California.
Yeah.
What part? Paradise? That's a place? It burned down?
Yeah, remember Paradise, the big fire?
Oh, no. But, where is it in relation to San Francisco? North? Wow. You had to get the hell out of there. You loved it so much you left? Why'd you leave?
The fire.
No, you left before the fire. You left for show business? Oh, they don't have show business in Paradise? Oh.
Nothing wrong with community
That's
theater,
fulfilling.
bitches.
That's fulfilling. Okay, over to you, Steph.
All right. Rick Sanchez says, Steph, I'll take you to Cheesecake Factory literally every day.
In Austin? Hey, we used to go literally
We
every
used to
day.
go to Cheesecake. That is so funny, Rick, that you would say that.
That was our favorite. First of all,
Stay with me.
No, you can come to me.
Oh, well, you have a... Okay.
It's all right. Our first
go,
date.
Jimmy.
Our first date. Our first date.
Oh.
So I call Steph up. I'm like, hey, what do you do? You know, she had given me her phone number, and I was supposed to call her the next day. But I was like, hey, I want to see you tonight. What are you doing? She's like, oh, nothing. So I drive over to her house, and I'm like, hey, let's go get something to eat. And I go, what's around here? She lived in Pasadena. I didn't. And I lived in Hollywood like you're supposed to. And she lived in Pasadena. And I said, what's around? And she goes, oh, there's an In-N-Out, which is a burger place. I'm like, no, I want to take you out to dinner. So we go to...
Embarrassing.
Like what kind of low rent?
I don't even go to In-N-Out.
So I'm like, I'm not going to... So
I wanted to keep it low key. I
So we-
wanted to keep it like, we're just hanging out for the first time. I didn't want any pressure.
So
I felt pressure.
So we go to Cheesecake Factory, and we sit down at Cheesecake Factory, and
Oh, no.
Steph orders a beer in a bottle.
I never order a beer.
I'm like, what?
I
She's a
never
beer
drink-
drinker? This chick's a beer drinker? I'm like, what? So I don't even remember what we ordered, but we went back to that thing at least 3 or 4 times a week. You know, you don't have kids. And you get to go to restaurants. That's one of the perks. But one of the bad things is you don't have anyone to bury you. And
We got Misha.
I hope so. And but no grandkids either, which is a bummer. And then so then I have to
We've got nieces and nephews.
I have to make up kids. Like I have to pretend like Jackson Hinkle's my kid and stuff like that. And then my nephew,
then we have an older kid named Chris Keene.
We have an older kid, Chris Keene. I had when I was
And
18.
we got Andrew.
I was 18. I had Chris Keene. Very young. Almost ruined my comedy career. And then I have a nephew, Connor, who just moved out here. He's tearing it up. Connor is tearing it up. He's got an on-air. He's a reporter, investigative reporter for NBC News in Bakersfield, California. And like every other day, he's on camera talking about, hey, look what happened. Look, there's all these fires. Oh, look, they got so he's doing a great job. Oh, look, the cop shot somebody. There's a guy got out and started shooting at the cops with what do you call those? Slingshot. Yeah. I think they had a name for it. They called it a medieval weapon or something like that. Yeah. So then the guy gets back in the car. The cops had to chase him, and then they shoot him. It's weird. Anyway, but Connor's killing it. All right.
Oh, Andrew Frankel is watching us right now. Andrew Frankel, let's get your music. Okay? He said, I just looked at the... Wow. Okay, Andrew.
What music?
So, you know when we do our interstitial music, our royalty-free music?
Yeah, he's got some great videos. Actually, he plays that electric, the electric violin or whatever, fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's great. Another,
Let's figure it out this week, Andrew.
Another one of those people, like, why? You see people who are super talented, like, why aren't they famous, right? And he can do amazing voices.
Oh, my
Yes.
God. You know which one I want in the queue? Klaus Schwab. Let's get Klaus Schwab in the queue. Okay, because that is big time hilarious. You and Andrew Frankel. Jimmy, we have another guest on at 2:30, just so you know.
All right, over to Steph.
All right, here we go, folks. Let's make this happen, girls. All right. Let me open that one and that one and that one. All right, here we go. Hey, Jerry Alatalo, you recommended brain warfare and synthetic biology expert James Giordano would be an excellent Jimmy Dore guest, but Mr. Giordano might not wish to appear publicly these days. Well, that is interesting. So
Why?
I'm gonna save that one, Jerry, because I think that would be possibly an interesting guest. So thank you for that recommendation. All right, let's do the next one. President Putin and Vice President Trump will surely save the world, Savage. Savage says, Misha, the epitome of the Anglo-American establishment. How do we take that? Savage. Faith says, please check out YouTube channel Lady Babylon shows why child abuse is synonymous with Christianity. Whoa, that is pretty heavy. Next one, and thank you, Faith. I hope you all have a bitchin' and bomb-ass weekend. Love the show. I never miss this fantastic show. Michael, we're gonna have a bitchin' bomb-ass weekend. Max D, top them donors withholding $90 million for as long as Biden remains in the race because, you know, democracy matters. All right, Max D, you're right. The Democratic ticket, Biden and Trump, 2024. Thank you for that, amigo. Let's go over here. Let's open these Rumble rants. Why won't that open? Okay, that's annoying. Why aren't these opening for me? Oh, why aren't these opening? There, that one's finally opening. Little technical issues. I try not to panic. Could you tell that I was panicking? You could tell. Misha, you're hilarious as always. What the fuck's a Yemen? Right? Twitter. Nice job there, kiddo. Hey, JD, would you consider having Congressman Thomas Massey on the show?
Yeah, I've been trying to get him on, believe me.
Yeah. How about you contact Thomas Massey and say, when's he going to do the Jimmy Dore show? Because we look forward to it. There have been so many conversations we wanted to have with him. Kudos to your show, to Steph and the team for always doing a great job. The team, look at you, Viggy. Thank you so much for that. That's right, girls. It's Fancy Vagina Fridays. That's right. Hey, please interview Jennifer Bilek about her new and transhumanist agenda. The Deaf Bartender. Thank you for that one, Deaf Bartender. I'll be sending this to my team. It's in the queue. All right, got that ready to go. Next, Jennifer Bilek. I haven't watched any of her stuff, so I'll have to read about it. Okay, let's see. Next one. Here's the next one. Okay. Steve from Toronto, direct quote. The fact of the matter is how you can assure you're going to be out on, on your way to go, work tomorrow. Age wasn't, the idea that I'm too old. Joe Biden, he sounds great. According to Rachel Maddow, he's great on foreign policy. When she says that, I think she means he's great on war spending. Oh, right. Okay, you're going to have to go to the office and put some pencils in. Because I want to look over in a minute and just see a bunch of pencils in that hair. Okay, let's see. And yes, you're correct. David Curtin was a great guest. All right, let's refresh. Jimmy, how are you doing over there? Jim Bob?
Okay, I just want to check that people are texting me.
That's okay.
And there's business.
I just wanted to know how you were doing.
Take care of.
Please tell us Kurt will be in remotely the amazing Blumpkin. Yes, of course he will. All right. Remember when he used to do that? He always had his spaceship, Intergalactica behind him. Hopefully he'll do that again. Sean, Jimmy, and Kurt should do a segment on HAARP, geoengineering and weather modification. Tennessee just banned cloud seeding chemtrails. No kidding. Good on Tennessee. Hey, the Dems are kicking up a new Russia narrative, B-Man. Is that because Joe Biden isn't doing well? Is it because of Russia? Is that who we're blaming now? All right, let's see here. Guys, it's great to see you guys. We have a great show, guys. Guysing. Oh, hold on. How come that's not coming up? That's interesting. Some of those super chats, when I refresh, aren't coming up. Let's see. Wow. Okay. Democratic ticket, Biden, Trump 2024. Right. And that was from Savage. All right. Here we go. The amazing Blumpkin. Yes, he will be tuning in remotely. The Dems are kicking Russia, Russia. Steph, the secret of life is being flexible. What? I don't want it. I don't like the sound of that. Moving to Austin will put a penny in your piggy bank of personal power, and the comedy scene is fantastic. Melissa, I like it. Melissa sold me. Let's go to Austin.
Our friend Sean Young's watching. She says she tried to move to Austin. It's a hot mess.
It's
That's
Sean. Oh.
Hey, I got to tell you.
Back to Jimmy.
Why did we move from California to Alaska? For starters, they shut down my dad's miniature tractor business because it wasn't EPA compliant or electric. Secondly, you have to smog every vehicle built after 1975. In California, this truck was $1,200 a year to register. Here it's $100 for lifetime tags. You couldn't take an ATV anywhere because every trail was closed off due to public safety. This sawmill, they wanted 1 million board feet worth of taxes for operating. And you can't use any of the lumber for anything structural. And finally, to build our cabin, it would have required 50 times more than we have in the materials of the cabin to get the permits to build it. Why did we move from California to Alaska?
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit
Isn't it swell? The memes make themselves. They found a rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle-diddle-diddle-digga-digga-diddle-diddle-dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish mooly man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, you know, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison, but they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, you know, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, you know, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators, and they're going to have riots on their hands. You know, they're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. You know, we have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, you know, what we need, what needs to be done. And, you know, taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. I mean, you know, don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, you know, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, you know, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, you know, this system and those backing the officials running the system, you know, want people to believe that revolution means violence, you know, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. You know, when people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where you think they get it from? They get it from us, from the people. You know, they get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it. Then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, you know, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. You know, every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. I mean, our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. You know, men, women, and children were murdered. And not just MOVE babies, you know. What about all of the young men, women, you know, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, you know, by drug pushers? I mean, you know, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, you know, making a quick buck, you know. I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, you know, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, you know, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. You know, how long are people going to sit back and beg, you know, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years all you've gotten is a slap in the face? All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.